Hey everybody, welcome to Options with Hans. I am Hans Albrecht, pro options market maker for 15 years and then an options income fund manager for a decade, managing up to 12 option income funds, generating $750 million over the years for investors, for clients, for members, et cetera, et cetera. So as always, this is for educational purposes only. Your trade, your responsibility. So if you're okay with that, let's dig right in. Please subscribe down below. Hit that bell if you can find it. Grab my free ebooks down in the description. If you do, I'm going to get you on the waiting list for crypto income as well as Turbo Trader, which is coming up soon. This is an incredible pro type trade from a pro, right? There are going to be a lot of people out there who push pro stuff and they don't know what they're talking about. In this program, you're going to get a course that teaches you how this works, why it works, why the edge is there, how this works in the long run, and why it does so well to grab upside in explosive type names. So it's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about edge. Everything, of course, about me is environment, it's edge, it's knowing when to trade options, it's knowing when to not trade options, it's knowing when to sit on your hands once in a while. And that is how you perform over time. This is not a volume game. We do not get paid by the hour in this game. We get paid by making better, smarter, sensible decisions over time, no guarantees. And then, of course, we have to have ripcords and things like that that help us to adjust when things do go against us. This is how this game is played. You can ignore part of that process, or you can get on board and understand that all those bits and pieces are good. Now, I managed a bunch of downside protect funds, black swan funds for a few years. So really, offense and defense are just in my DNA. So that's why I instill everything with offense and defense when I teach people. Okay, so this is an important chart. You know, I love to look at relationships between various products, various sectors, the S&P, market cap, equal weight, et cetera, et cetera. I think it gives you an indication of where the big money is starting to come in. And you can zoom out and really kind of see something interesting happening sometimes. So look at this. We've been sort of bouncing around. This is the relationship of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So ETHA versus IBIT. IBIT is the Bitcoin ETF. So you can see that it's basically come down. What does that mean when this chart is going down? It means Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum. It doesn't mean one is necessarily going up or down. It means it's outperforming. So what that means is when we see the chart go up, that means Ethereum is starting to outperform Bitcoin. Now, they may both be going up, but Ethereum is taking the lead, right? It's taking the baton and really starting to take off a little bit. So we broke through this resistance, and make no mistake, you can chart relationships. I love to do it all the time. You know, I've talked at length about the ARK versus big cap tech, which is one of the reasons I started plowing into many of these positions, right? That's one more bit of edge here that showed that people were getting kind of excited about things, right? There was a mania beginning, and 100% that has been the case. So don't forget about these relationship charts. They can really show you where potentially the big money is starting to shift into. So we can see here we've been bouncing around, made that new low on Ethereum where they basically tossed it out. And what's happened is we've started to break through this resistance, and then we sort of sat around. Now we made a very big move today. So we've been adding to the program in Leaps Trader and across many accounts that I have. I've been adding exposure here because, and I did a video on it, talking about how this could really be a big trade if you position yourself properly. What's happened is Ethereum has really kind of struggled over time, right? Versus Bitcoin, there was sort of some notion that there was a lot of competition in the stablecoin world. We weren't quite sure who was going to pull ahead. Ethereum was the big one a couple years ago, smart contracts, etc. But here we are with this utility phase where Bitcoin is a bit more like that paperweight. And so here we are with Ethereum starting to take notice, investors starting to take notice of Ethereum and how important it's going to be. So I get very excited about this. If I zoom out a little bit more, look over 2 years, there's no reason in my mind that we can't perhaps retrace a good chunk of this underperformance that Ethereum's had, right? This is going to be something that people need in terms of that transactional layer, that sort of foundation back office layer behind the scenes for those extra transactional layers that you sit on top. But Ethereum is kind of that super highway that could be emerging as the go-to sort of back office to everything that's going to happen with stablecoin. In many use cases. So here we go, boom. Why not? This could start to push through here and get all the way back to here. So I think there's a very potentially nice trade in this, which I explained in my last video, and you can go back and look at some of the reasoning behind it. And I just want to talk about some positions that we've had really wonderful results in Leaps Trader. Really, everyone's just having a great time. I mean, look, it's a bull market. Hey, we welcome the bull market, but this is what I've been talking about. Josh Brown, great people I really respect, have not been on board to the same extent as they should. He didn't like Palantir. I said, what are you talking about? The phone's going to be ringing off the hook. You guys watched my video the other day. I said it 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. I said, these guys are going to turn money, are going to turn business away. And that's exactly what they've been doing. That's what he said on the call the other day. He basically said, we're turning business away. They don't have enough people. They don't even have a sales force. It's unbelievable. This is a new paradigm for certain kinds of companies like Palantir. Now it's expensive. I've been unloading it like crazy lately. It turned out to be my biggest position over the last couple months on top of Hood. And so I've been sort of monetizing that. And I did a video yesterday showing how I'm still retaining upside, but in a very sensible, measured way, right? You have to sort of put yourself in different silos. We got the big move. There may be more in the fall, but we got the big move. That's behind us. That's a different trade. That's a very nice long delta trade. We took off turbo trade, which I'm going to talk more about in my turbo trader service, but you get these really aggressive plays. But now we've had the move, right? We've had a big chunk of the move. Now you move to something else. So I talked about a broken wing butterfly. That is not part of Leaps Trader, but it is a way that a pro thinks of things, aligning those Greeks together in ways that make sense. So we covered this very nicely. Here we go. These are the kinds you get constant updates here, basically repositioning, Palantir closing a whole bunch of things for massive wins, Leaps Core. We did the Hood here. So we bought these back 360. And then, of course, the rumors started. The timing was uncanny, but that's kind of how things are going this year. And so here we go. We talked about different ways, right? Because I educate on ways to hedge. We can do collars. We can do trailing stops. We can sell. We can use put spreads, downside put spreads. Different ways we can do things depending on our view of things, depending on pricing, skew, all that fun stuff that really changes the way you express yourself from a hedging standpoint, right? You can't just do the same hedge all the time or it's not going to work out very well for you. So think of 2022, there's a product, the CBOE put protect index basically, and the market was down 18%. How do you think that index did? It bought puts every month to protect the underlying S&P holding. How do you think it did? It did worse than the market. It did worse than the 18% down market that we had in 2022. That is the wrong kind of protection. It's stupid. It's a stupid product. I can get into that in another video, but you need to put yourself in the right kinds of protection in order to make those protective layers actually react to a sell-off, right? You have to give yourself a chance. And that index, quite frankly, is just nonsense. So here we go. So we did that. Palantir, we sold some explosion trades. We did the Hood cover. So we grabbed 7.5% there. So that's always nice on a position where you grab 7.5%. I think it took us about 2.5 weeks. So lots of really great things going on in the portfolios. You can see here, lots of really nice closes. 81%, 35%, 81%, 57, 5%. Nothing great, but we'll take it. Okay, so 81%. Those are really the great ones here. And then an explosion, of course, we've got a bunch as well. Closed the SOXL trade, by the way, up 167%. Half of that trade, I moved into that upside call spread. I hope you saw that video. That was a very timely video that moved some of the risk out of that, right? We were starting to get very long delta, lots of things going on there in terms of creating too much risk in the position. So we adjusted in half the position into another structure, which is exactly how you have to do it. So this was the video here. Here's the thumbnail. So I was talking about maybe getting around 2,000% on this particular trade. That could be, really in the ballpark. So what we did is we kind of went out and we looked at a way to finance, right? I call it my turbo trade. It's something that we're really going to focus on in Turbo Trader, which is going to be an incredible service of these sort of explosive upside trades. And as you know, I think we're going into a mania like we've never seen in 30 years. And it's going to be maybe even bigger in a sense than the dot-com. So I think there's going to be lots of opportunities for these turbo trades to make a really a lot of money. They're going to be really exciting. So this was financed with some downside, picked up these 34s at 3.25, right? So they're 470 bid now. So already this trade is up huge, but I don't think this is done, right? And I've also been adding some leaps. I've been adding some various trades that are going to continue to play this upside in different ways as I look at the pricing. Now, let me show you the pricing notice the pricing right now. Now, I'll show you, this is what the pricing looked like before. And in that video, I said, this is actually kind of weird for something that's had a very explosive upside move, that it's actually, they're not really caring about it. Well, here you go. So they've finally come to their senses, and look at this option pricing. It's starting to zoom up. Even in the longer term options. This is telling me that something big is going on. This is not pretend. This is happening right now. Look at the 30-day option pricing zooming to all-time highs. Now, given ETHA hasn't been around very long, but this is the action that you see in a product that maybe doesn't have a lot of open interest to begin with, but also where people are a little bit nervous about that upside, right? So we're going to see in a moment that they're getting pushed up, but it still has not gotten anywhere near that sort of over-exhausted kind of area that sometimes I look for in skew, which we talked about in an MSTR video last year, gave me a very good indication of when MSTR was exhausted to the upside, right? So we've got this upside move in option pricing. Very, very impressive. So that to me tells me something interesting is going on. Let me show you the skew now. Here is your skew. This is your near term. So they're not really kind of getting too excited. The whole thing is lifted, right? So it's unusual when you see a stock go up for the option pricing to go up as well. That's actually a little bit unusual. You can see it's actually pushing up beyond its sort of 52-week levels. But again, this hasn't been around for very long. So some of this data is maybe a little bit suspect. But we do know for sure is that we've pushed up in terms of option pricing over the day. Now that is more customary in things like gold and cryptocurrency and areas that have that explosive upside potential. So here we are, it's pushing up. Let's take a look at the smile. So we can see the smile is more of a smirk here. We have this nice downside, which we talked about with the SOXL trade. Remember the SOXL trade? Some of my members made like 5, 6, 700, 600 for 50% on trades. We can see this nice downside. That's why we financed that trade earlier, because it has that explosive upside that you can finance. This is that pro trade, right? You want to do the pro trades because they give you the edge. So the upside still isn't very expensive. It's not that expensive unless you go way, way, way out, but those are less meaningful, right? Because those are much cheaper options. So you don't have to worry about this steepness here. Right here out to the 25 delta, really not that unreasonable. So for me, it tells me things are starting to get heated. They're getting excited, but it's not over. This is just getting going. So when I start to line up my edge, my fundamentals, my skew, my volatility, all these different things kind of come into play to make this a very interesting trade. And I'm probably going to add some protection as well somewhere along the way. So I've got these positions on, they're doing well. I didn't get in at the bottom, but I'm getting in as things start to get going over the last few weeks here, and I believe more and more in this underlying fundamental strength that is there. So at this point, I don't think you even need to go to the December. I'd rather give myself a little bit more time. You could go April 26, so you could do a finance, maybe do like maybe sell like a 23.17, right? Give yourself like a $6 spread, $1.40, and probably about 3.10, $1.40. So you're looking at maybe a $1.80. So you grab a $1.80 selling that downside vertical, and then you could take that and pile into maybe like an April 2026 41, something like that. You could even use this finance portion in a near-term option. Now, I don't mind doing that when I feel very strongly about something, because I feel like, okay, if it does come down, I don't mind getting it. I don't mind owning it. But if you do the vertical, you have that extra little soldier that you can play with, right? So this is some of the stuff I'm going to teach you this full trade in Turbo Trader. It's going to be incredible. You're going to learn things that you never imagined. I always find with students, they go, wow, that was like kind of mind blown kind of situation when you taught me how this works and how I can make options that actually work for me instead of working for the market makers, which is half the time. I was a market maker, and I thank you for all your business. But I'm teaching you guys to do things like a market maker, like a pro, like a volatility trader. So I think that's a very interesting trade at this point. Now, you don't have to go out that far. You can keep it to let's say you keep it to January. I mean, that's 4 or 5 months of lots of things that are going to happen over the next 4 or 5 months. So I think we're going to get some play. I wouldn't be positioning in September, maybe not even October, because maybe we do get a little bit of a squishy month or two because of seasonality and, until we sort of get that melt up. And it could happen earlier, 100%. This is not business as usual with the AI inference stage. But, you could do that maybe in a January as well. Look for a nice finance to pick up some upside, maybe some 36, 37s. Today I went out actually and I picked up even more in my kids' accounts. I already have some, but I went out to the Jan 2027. Actually, no, I went to the April. Yeah, I went to the April 2027, the 35 calls. I picked these up for 660, right? So not just almost at the highs. That's fine. I don't mind buying on the way up. I bought down. I'm going to buy on the way up. I like buying strength. That to me is confirmation of my position, and I like to add to positions that are giving me confirmation that they're doing well and they're heading in the right direction. So that's it, guys. So other than that, don't forget about Leaps Trader. Still time to get in on that summer bundle, or if you just want Leaps Trader without all the perks, all the extras, all the trimmings, as they say, with get a turkey dinner with all the trimmings. Get the Leaps Trader program today. Go for the summer bundle, as many people have over the past week. They're really excited about learning. Right? Some people want to be just given the fish, and some people want to learn to fish, and some people want both. So there's a little bit of everything in there. But for the price of Leaps Trader, it is kind of mind-boggling because I just do so much in there, way more than I ever thought I would at first. But I just can't help it. I want people to do great, and I want them to learn. It is the age of option guru grift. There's so many posers out there. I want to give you substance. I want you to get excited. I want to build a business here, right? That's what this is about too. I'm not going to lie to you. I want to build a business here, but I want to give you a great balance of a little bit of flash, a little bit of excitement, and a lot of substance. And I think that's very, very hard to find. I thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of it today. I look forward to seeing you on the inside with our Leaps Trader, Turbo Trader, and crypto income as well. We'll see you soon.